Today I want to talk to you about two very important P words, perception and perspective. Understanding perception and perspective will help you change your outlook on life. My name is Jennifer Mitchell-Early. I help individuals and teams achieve organizational and personal success, and this is Leadership Matters. How many times have you heard, change your perspective and you'll change your life? At the very least, you've heard me say many times that perspective matters. But before you get to perspective, you have to understand perception. This is part one of a two-part series. Perception is the active process of creating meaning by selecting, organizing, and interpreting people, objects, events, situations, and other experiences. Perception is an active process. We actively work to make sense of ourselves, others, and interactions. To do this, we select only certain things to notice. Then we organize and interpret what we have selectively noticed. We ascribe meaning to what we notice through the organization and interpretation of such. Thus, perception isn't cut and dry. It's not simply a matter of receiving external reality. Rather, we invest a lot of energy in constructing the meaning of our experiences. Perception consists of three processes: selecting, organizing, and interpreting. Selection. We can't pay attention to everything in our environment, so we narrow our focus to attend to certain stimuli based on a number of factors. We notice things that stand out because they're larger, more intense, or more unusual. So we're more likely to hear a loud voice than a soft one, and to notice bright, flashy ads on the internet rather than a black and white one. We rely on self-indication to call particular phenomena to our attention, which means that we can deliberately focus our attention on something. Finally, what we select to notice is also influenced by who we are and what's going on within us. Our motives and needs affect what we see and don't see. Once we have selected what to notice, we have to make sense of it. We do this by organizing what we've noticed and ascribing meaning to it. We use a theory known as constructivism, in which we organize and interpret experiences by applying cognitive structures called schemata. We use 4 schemata to make sense of our experiences. A. Prototypes. A prototype defines the clearest, most representative examples of a particular category. For example, you probably have prototypes for teachers, leaders, managers, co-workers, and friends. Each of these categories is exemplified by a person who is the ideal. That's the prototype. The person who is my ideal of a leader is my former change management team manager, Michelle. It's rare that you come across a leader with the emotional intelligence of Michelle. I had the pleasure of working with her for 3 years. In addition to her ability to rally and influence her team towards a common goal, I was particularly impressed with her capacity to bring about a quick and collaborative resolution to especially complex and challenging circumstances that often involve competing priorities and/or ambiguous goals. For this reason, she was often enlisted by our change management team to provide clarity, navigate through matters of uncertainty, and ultimately to close the deal. Michelle's disciplined self-awareness, active listening skills, vast organizational knowledge, and humility enabled her to be a consummate leader who fostered creativity, ingenuity, and loyalty from her employees. As a team member and as a leader, Michelle continues to earn my highest recommendation. B. Personal constructs. A personal construct is a mental yardstick we use to measure a person or situation along opposing dimension of judgment. For example, responsible versus irresponsible, truthful versus untruthful, intelligent versus unintelligent, attractive versus unattractive, etc. We rely on personal constructs to make judgments on people, objects, and experiences. Whereas prototypes help us to determine which broad category an experience fits into, a personal construct helps us to make more detailed assessments about the qualities of it. For example, people often talk about how much more responsible girls are than boys. Some attribute this to girls maturing faster or because they have a naturally nurturing disposition. But not everyone subscribes to this personal construct, as not all girls are more responsible than boys, nor are all girls naturally nurturing. The personal constructs that we rely on shape our perceptions because we define things only in terms of the constructs we choose to use. C. Stereotype. A stereotype is a predictive generalization applied to a person or situation based on the category in which we place someone or something and how that person or thing measures up against the personal constructs we apply. We predict what he, she, or it will do. For example, if you define someone as liberal, you might stereotype her or him as likely Democratic, to support social legislation, to be pro-environment, and so forth. D. Scripts. The final cognitive schema we use to organize perception is the script. A script is a guide to action. Scripts consist of sequences of activities that are expected of us and others in particular situations. They are based on our experiences and observations of interaction in various contexts. Many of our daily activities are governed by scripts. We have a script for meeting new people, managing conflict, talking with managers, and interacting with coworkers on the job. While scripts are useful in guiding us through many of our interactions, they are not always accurate or constructive, so we shouldn't accept them without question. For example, if you grew up in a community that treated people of certain races negatively, you may want to assess that script critically before using it to direct your own activities. Prototypes, personal constructs, stereotypes, and scripts are cognitive schemata that we use to organize our perception of people and experiences. As we interact with ourselves and others, we internalize our culture's ways of classifying, measuring, and predicting experiences and the norms for acting in various situations. After we have selectively focused on someone or something, we organize our experience and assign meaning to it. Interpretation is the subjective process of explaining our perceptions in ways that make sense to us. To interpret the meaning of another's actions, we construct explanations, referred to as attributions, for them. An attribution is an explanation of why something happened or why someone acts in a certain way. Our attributions influence the meanings that we attach to our interactions. Although we've talked about the processes of perception, selection, organization, and interpretation, in reality, that may occur in a different order, blend into one another, or occur simultaneously. In addition, they are interactive, so each of them affects one another. Our perceptions are always partial and subjective. They are partial because we cannot perceive everything, and they are subjective because they are influenced by factors such as culture, physiology, roles, age, viewpoint, and cognitive abilities. And while perception is not reality, as it's created and exists in the mind, it certainly has the power to influence a person's understanding of their reality. I like the way that Dr. Jim Taylor said it in his Psychology Today article, "Perception is not reality." Our perception acts as a lens through which we view reality. Our perceptions influence how we focus on, process, remember, interpret, understand, synthesize, decide about, and act on reality. In so doing, our tendency is to assume that how we perceive reality is an accurate representation of what reality truly is. But it is not. The problem is that the lens through which we perceive is often warped in the first place by our genetic dispositions, past experiences, prior knowledge, emotions, preconceived notions, self-interest, and cognitive distortions. In part 2, we'll discuss perspective and how the two work together to shape your outlook on life. So if you haven't done so already, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified when I upload part 2. Have a great week.